What lengths will Barbara Gordon be willing to go to avenge her commissioner father? Well, let's hop into the pages of Batman Curse of White Knight issue number 4 and find out for ourselves, shall we? Alrighty then, so as the comic opens up, we are treated to a very heartbreaking little juxtaposition. The doctors at Gotham General desperately try in vain to resurrect a dying Jim Gordon, while a truly devastated and grief-stricken Barbara remembers a moment from her childhood wherein Jim told her that even though her mother wanted her to be a princess, he knew full well that she was a fighter like him. And while Batgirl loses a father and her final parent, Batman too is equally crushed. After all, they hadn't been seeing eye to eye, but never let it be doubted that Gordon was very important to Batman. Heck, you could argue next to Alfred, he was the next best positive male role model in his life and a kind of father figure in a weird way. Barbara is all fire and brimstone at the next GTO meeting, and with perfectly good reason. There's a lot of blame to go around. We even get to see a grief-stricken and crying Harvey Bullock, which is a scene you don't see very much. Renee Montoya, the new commissioner, does everything she can in her power to rein everything back under control, but it's clear that there are major fissures starting to form amongst the good guys right now. Batman is undeniably losing control of his own people right now, and because of that, he opts to try and check in on one of the few things he can actually control, and that is the situation involving Harley Quinn and her new twins. It seems that Leslie Tompkins has been watching over them in a safe house. Batman also breaks down in front of Leslie, probably the last person he can actually do that in front of, and really gets out his grief over the loss of Gordon. And after the loss of Alfred, it certainly pains Leslie to have to do this, but she decides to let Bruce in on some background stuff that Alfred and her had been up to before his death. You see, Alfred and Leslie were actually already aware of the long-standing blood feud between the Waynes and the Church of St.Dumas. They had received a letter only early into Batman's own career as a crime fighter. Alfred vowed to protect his ward Bruce against everything, even the truth, and had actually gone out on his own to try and deal with a representative of the church. They never say if it's Jason Blood, but he certainly looks like Jason Blood. He's also implied to have some sort of magical powers, which again strengthens my theory. Long story short, this guy says that the war between the Waynes and the descendants of the church had almost torn Gotham apart before, and he desperately wants to make sure that history does not repeat itself, even though that's exactly what's going on right now. Now, both Dick and Montoya want Barbara to take some time off from the GTO and get over her grief, but obviously Batgirl is throwing herself into catching Azrael and his co-conspirators 100%. While Batman and Nightwing have had decades to come to terms with the death of their own parents, for Barbara it's fresh, it's new, and there's no telling what she could possibly do in her anger. Ultimately, Batgirl finds a none too surprising ally in the form of Harvey Bullock, feeling that the justice system is going to have to sit this one out while they deal with this one cowboy style. And what of John Paul Valley and Azrael? Well, as we discover, killing the commissioner that loudly and that publicly was never the plan of the Gotham 1%ers. Azrael very much went off the script, and obviously he's a crazy person who thinks God is literally on his side and steering his hands at all times. In fact, he's even talking about maybe overthrowing Ruth if she gets in the way. Ultimately, Batgirl and Bullock hunt Azrael's convoy down and crash into him with the frickin' tumbler from The Dark Knight. A massive skirmish breaks out, and one that only becomes more and more chaotic as Batman and the rest of the GTO show up. Azrael takes this moment to speechify, because I mean, what good supervillain would pass up this opportunity, saying, oh, Batman lived when they burned down his house because God had wanted them to meet on the open field of battle. Batman answers back quite hilariously, dude, I barely know who you are. I'm still trying to put all of this together, and I'm trying to stop one of my sidekicks from making a terrible mistake. The GTO, in a moment of pure competence, actually managed to gun down one of Azrael's little helpers, causing the bad guys to end up retreating. The day is won, sort of, but that it's heavily implied as the comic comes to a close that Barbara was horrifically injured in the fight. In fact, they seek to imply that maybe she had her back broken. And so that was Batman Curse of White Knight issue number 4, everybody, and man, what a visceral little issue dealing with all the feel-bad emotions, anger, rage, loss, sadness, and that despite all of his bluster and presentation, at the end of the day, Azrael really is just kind of a goober here being pushed around by forces he doesn't understand. No, not God, the ultra-rich of Gotham. Sean Gordon Murphy is also very organically telling a type of story wherein Batman wanted to leave that life behind for all the proper reasons, but is now getting pulled back in because, well, really only Batman can deal with problems as crazy as this. This was also a really fast-feeling issue. Ultimately, I would give this one a 8.5 out of 10. Really solid stuff. Cannot wait to see what happens next.
Hey there,
everyone, Kate Joel again, and I just want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. It means a lot to me. And hey, if you enjoyed the book I covered in this issue and want some comics of your own, might I recommend Book Depository? It's my #1 place for shopping for comic book trades. You get a great price, and if you use my link down in the description, you'll actually be helping me out at the same time. You get something, I get something, everybody wins, right? So until next time, everyone, I've been Joel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.